very much. One more comment before we go back to the panel? Yes, a question. Quick one.
I'm Linda Ogashi and I work with women. I mentor them into the next step. This is a personal question. Most women struggle with balance. They struggle with being a mother, being a wife, being everything to everyone. And somehow there's always a guilt. There's some guilt that builds up over time when you are working late and somehow your in-laws expect you to be, with the kids, or you feel you're doing a bad job in one area, or you need to, do better. I think it's worse for the African setting. I would really love to hear from you. What are the tips that you could give these ladies? How to really manage your mental health as a business lady, and also what are the things to look out for so that you can scream for help? Because we never ask for help, and it is something that I'm feeling we need to speak about more for the moment.
What was your name? Sorry, was it Liz? You said
Linda.
Linda, thank you. Firstly, I don't call it balance, it's life integration, because there will never be a balance, right? So let's just clarify that. I know Wakiru is dying to jump in, and then Lindsay.
Yeah, I was actually going to say throw balance out of the window. Something will always suffer. So if you're kicking us at your job, you will not go for that sports day for your child. I mean, throw that out of the window. I think one of the things that I've learned along the way is to not guilt myself for following the things that I believe at that time are priority. The other thing that I do is lean towards the community. It takes a village. So if you have kids, for those who have communities of people they can lean onto, I highly advise you do that. And then always ask for help. We do not ask for help as women. I don't know why, and I know especially for African women, we feel, and I think it's also how the world views us. We are viewed as, oh, you're strong enough, or you can handle this, you can do that. But always ask for help. Ask for help from your co-workers, delegate if you have a team, if you have a partner, in business, ask for help. If you have a husband, partner, ask for help. Always ask for help, because you will die on that horse of trying to prove you're the most amazing mom, the most amazing wife, the most amazing everything. So my tips are throw balance out the window. Accept that you don't have to go for all the sports days. You can't go for some. Accept that sometimes you'll have to miss a meeting to go for a sports day, and that's okay. But just, yeah.
Very well said, Lindsay.
Yeah, so Linda, I was 5 months pregnant when I joined a team to build my first startup, and my son, Miles, who's right there, he was actually born the day after our biggest product launch. I think he was waiting, for the product launch. So my kids have grown up, they grew up from 0 to 10 in the middle of an excruciatingly painful startup journey. And I'll never forget, I felt so much guilt. But two things gave me solace, and I hope it helps the other women in the room, is that the day, my last day as CEO of Phoenix, I came home from a work trip and my daughter had written me a card, and I kept telling the kids, I'm not going to travel for work anymore, I'm going to take a sabbatical, and I got a card from my daughter just saying, Mom, I'm so proud of what you've done, what are you going to do next? We need more women CEOs. And, I was surprised, right? And I think about it, my father and I are very close, and I rarely saw my dad always travel for work Monday through Friday, and I'm so close to my dad today. So as women, I don't think we're giving up being close to our children because we are working, and if we do, in fact, women, we need to be at the table. They need to see us. Our daughters and sons need to see women at the table. So in fact, maybe the greatest thing we can do is actually be at the table so that our daughters have a chance to be at that table. And then the second thing is I integrate my kids into work. So I bring my daughter to 2 conferences internationally a year. I bring my son to things like women investor panels. So just integrating them so they see what you're doing, I think can be one small thing. But I feel you on the guilt, it'll never go away.
Yes, hello. There's a gentleman called Paul Harris who built the
largest national bank in South Africa. I think everybody knows FNB. And the one thing is very clear about is that business is talent. So it's very successful. I think I like the idea of integration. That's exactly what I did with my daughter as well. I would go with her to work. And when your children understand what you do and they see you in action, they actually appreciate you more. So I think it's very, very important. But the one thing that I wanted to really emphasize, because we don't talk about it a lot, is allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is not a weakness, it's actually a strength in business. When your team sees you, today you're not okay, you're struggling, you need their help, you will not believe how much they stand up for you and they come through for you. So allow yourself to be vulnerable. And of course, ideally, also be unapologetic about building a support system. And for me, I've got people that work for the garden, clean, cook, they do all the domestic things that women should do, and I'm very unapologetic about that. It doesn't make me less feminine, I'm just realistic about the demands of my time. And I think the family around me understands the importance of building that support system. So don't be afraid to build a support system around you. Yes.
To Nigeria many years ago, before she started this business with, I think, Bill and Melinda Gates or one of such organizations on a project, and somehow stayed, right? And she started this processing company. Now, what I like about this business and this founder is a few things, right? So she first wanted to process tomatoes. So once I say tomatoes, I think everybody will know this business. So she wanted to process tomatoes, right? But she realized that the value chain for tomatoes was too broken to sustain a viable processing business. So what did she do? She stepped back. She spent the first 3 to 5 years of the business developing a tomato growing business, right? So she set up a farm, got the protocols right, the seed varieties, the blah, 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 and then she went on to train farmers and set up a contract farming model and a model farm, etc. It took 3 years, more than 3 years, 3 to 5 years, before she got to the point where she thought that this business could now sustain, the business could be sustained by, there was enough input to sustain the processing. And now, yes, the rest is history, right? So the company is processing tomatoes. They don't just process, but they also have a brand, a tomato paste brand that is being sold and distributed in the market and such and such. Now, is this a success, right? Well, it depends on who you ask. But as far as I know, there have not been exits yet for this business. But she's done something really, really remarkable, right? Which is start a business out of nothing. She literally started this business out of nothing. The tomato farm was in some remote place in northern Nigeria. I'm Nigerian, I wouldn't live there, just think about it, right? I wouldn't. So I think we need to really define our view of what is success, right? As an investor, as an entrepreneur, to me, it's success as an investor because I have backed a business who most other people would not, investors would not back. And we were one of the first institutional investors that came into the business. After us, other institutional investors came in. But if there are no investors willing to take the bet and say yes, the referral effect of investors, right, is so strong, right? Once you see that this investor invested, okay, then there's an amount of de-risking that happens that catalyzes more money to come into the business.
Okay, so I have to catch up. I want Lindsay to pick up on that point exactly. The whole idea of redefining success. As you're talking about the best portfolio company, make sure that you keep that in mind as well. It's not about the big exit. Let's redefine success.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I was gonna talk about exits because I don't think we talk about them enough, and I just think one thing I wanted to mention is that most exits that are happening there's no press releases around, and I think we have to kind of acknowledge it and know that there's a lot of exits happening through secondaries. There's a lot of exits where the buyer or the seller do not want to talk about the exit for tax purposes. So I just want to show that since 2018, as an investor, I've been involved in 7 exits. 4 secondary exits where we, realized anything from 3x to 10x our investment through a secondary. And that was almost always by bringing in outside funds, global funds that are more comfortable with secondaries. And I think we need to do more of that. The DFIs don't do it, but if we go to the US and Europe and Asia, those funds are willing to do secondaries. And we are seeing good uplift on early stage. I just really wanted to make sure we talk about that. Like funds are seeing 3 to 10x on certain secondaries, and 2 of those were in agriculture, and 1 in energy, and 1 in mobility. So I just really want to say that those exits are happening. But I think when I look at our portfolio companies now, it's the companies that I call have embedded impact and commercial returns. So the companies where every sale of the product is creating impact for the customer, is employing someone in a profitable way that creates returns for investors, and almost all of our portfolio companies have that embedded impact. So I think we have to redefine impact, and to me, that's a product that creates value, a company that creates jobs, as opposed to getting so fixated on specific types of impact. And just finding those win-win-wins, and I think there are so many in Africa that we can continue to invest in.
Absolutely. Polo, yours, and then I know our time is up.
Yeah, I know, that was great as well. So I mean, firstly, I think that female and male entrepreneurs are actually the same in very many ways. There are not as many differences as we think there are. When you do your investment thesis, you take it through the same process. It's just that they might show up differently. Some might be less confident and some might be more confident. But I think there are a lot more similarities than there are dissimilarities. We look at things like entrepreneurial character, by the way. For us, it's very, very important. We say, whether you're a male or female, if you don't have a teachable spirit, you're not going to invest in women. And you do have a lot of females that have got a teachable spirit, and a lot of them don't, similar to men. So I think it's important to almost come up with a character of success and not make it gender-based per se, but rather say these are the characteristics that make up a good entrepreneur. Our experience with exits has been that South Africa is a little bit different to most of the continent. What we see a lot of in South Africa in terms of exits is actually trade sales. So the big guys wait for the small guys to go and prove some product market fit for something, then they buy them out. So we've had how many? We've had 2 of them so far: part trade sale and then 1 full trade sale, which were good exits for us. But the most interesting thing is that the one transaction that we had 12 times money was actually female led and founded a business a few years ago. So that's the highest we've made so far. I don't know whether it's a sign of what the future is going to look like. And the current exit discussions we're having, interestingly again, I'm looking at 6 now, and 5 out of the 6 are female owned and led. So women are talking about exits, and these women in particular that we're talking about, they're looking at buying back. So what we typically do with our transactions, because we come in early stage, we do a hybrid. So there'll be a self-liquidating component and then there'll be an equity component. So most of them have already, done the self-liquidation bit. Their balance sheets are strong, and because in South Africa again we have got a strong capital markets, it's easy for them to go to banks and then buy back our shares, and that's what we are seeing. We're expecting to happen with the transaction.
So I really like that intentionality around the structuring piece, female or male. Okay, so time is up. I'm just going to summarize. I think this has been a great conversation, and thank you, panel, for your vulnerability, for your openness, for your openness to strange questions being raised by your moderator. So highlights from the conversation today. Intentionality around lack of track record. If you are an angel investor, please look at the other things that your entrepreneur has done over and beyond what they're doing at that moment in time. I really felt that was quite powerful. Linda, your question, integration and not balance, and getting the men to step up is one of the takeaway points for me as well. Stipends, such a strong point around, if you're an investor, a venture studio, think about the structural inequalities that women have to deal with, and make sure that your thesis addresses that through stipends, for example. I also took away the be bolder question. Ask for 5 times what you need, not less than that, okay? I think that was so powerfully said. And then I loved the exits discussion. You're absolutely right. Of course, we all define our successes differently, but we do need to talk about exits on this continent because that will help attract new capital. Okay, and lastly, the future is female, right? Thank you.